Hello and welcome to MwikaliTalks. Of course, we are at Thriver, and just so you know, this particular company is an award-winning influencer marketing company, which creates a platform where businesses and influencers can just have a beautiful platform, merge, work together, and create magic. So we are the ones creating that magic here today on MwikaliTalks. This is October. That means it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, where we get to talk about cancer, break down the stigma, create awareness around, getting the screenings and where that is happening. And of course, sharing stories of victors who have gone through this and emerged on the other end, and they're not quiet because they are using their voice, their stories to encourage, empower, and create more awareness around breast cancer. And today we have just the perfect victoress. At 23, she was hit with the news. A few years later, she was told, Cheki, Mdem, you have 1 year to live. It's been a couple of years since they said that to her. And she's here today to share her story. She is gorgeous and she has red hair. Mwende Mutiso, welcome to MwikaliTalks.
Thank you so much for having me.
I went to primary school with a lady called Mwende Mutiso.
Okay.
And they have to say it like that. You realize they have to say the two names together and it has to have a Kamba intonation.
Absolutely.
Just say your name.
Mwende Mutiso.
Exactly. Is there any other way to say it?
Not at
I don't
all.
think. It's just Mwende Mutiso.
Yeah.
It's just like for me,
rhymes.
it would be Mary Mwikalimutoa. It has to be said that way for it to make sense. So later in life, it's like, my name is Mwikali. I was like, what? So Mwende Mutiso, that has been your name. Did you change it after some point? Because I dropped Mary at some point. Nikaenda na Mwikali.
Yeah, I have to say, initially, I used my first name, Eunice.
Yes.
And then what happened was, whenever I was in a crowd of people, we were so many Eunices.
It's like Mary.
Yes.
Mary are everywhere.
Yeah,
we are
exactly.
many.
So I had to just start introducing myself with my two other names.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like it. And your hair as well, very beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you have gone through quite a bit at a very young age.
Yes.
And I'm just looking back to the age 23. I think I just started working, nimetengeneza pesa, nime move out of home. Kwanza niko na kifungu. I have a key to my little SQ.
Yes.
If mkinibo, maybe I can go home. You know what I mean?
Own space.
I am like, the world looks huge and I'm so eager to conquer it when I look back at that age. But then it was at that age for you that you're just like, okay, what now?
I know.
How has that changed? What was happening in your life just before 23?
So I finished high school in 2011, and I remember I finished it, I think, in November, and by December I had already gotten a job or a promotion in the supermarket. I know I was so ready, to start my new life as an adult. So I did quite a bit of work throughout, and my main aim was to save up and go to university.
Okay.
So I managed to get into university in 2016 January at Daystar, and nilikuwa nimefika. I remember just thinking, I'm ticking everything. I had already secured an internship at an organization called Resource Center for Women and Girls. I was, working. I was in school. My life was,
shikiki. You're just ticking the boxes.
Exactly.
And you're in there. I mean.
Know. Yes.
What were you studying?
Psychology and counseling.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I have always had a passion. I love listening to people. I love, coming up with solutions and what have you. So that had been my passion. Okay. And so just before I got to uni, I remember in 2018 December, I remember feeling a lump in my breast. So how I found out about the lump is a few years back, I had gone to a medical camp and we were shown how to do self-breast examination. Okay. And I remember at that time I was just thinking, okay, breast cancer and you normally are older women,
they say what is 40 and above, yes.
And I was just thinking, it's a skill I've learned, let me just be
Use
doing
it.
it.
Yeah.
So, and I had gone to this, the medical camp was actually organized by now the organization I was interning in at that time, Resource Center for Women and Girls. And so once I learned, I was doing the breast examination every once in a while. And during that particular day, I remember I was watching TV and I was, just checking and I felt something. So I asked my sister to come and, just do it and see if she feels anything.
The same, yeah.
She, during a period of like 2 weeks or so, we would feel it and sometimes we wouldn't. So I decided to go to a medical clinic to have it checked. It was checked. I was told, it's nothing, and also because I'm also young, because of hormonal imbalance, etc., it's normal. It will go away.
So fears away.
Exactly.
Okay.
So about 7 months later, after visiting 4 or 5 different hospitals, because I remember the lump had started now becoming a bit bigger, and now I could actually feel it.
Okay.
There's a hospital I went to and I was given antibiotics
for
the lump.
Oh.
I know. So I was misdiagnosed, and now I went to another.
Antibiotics?
Yes.
Okay.
So I finished the antibiotics and nothing happened.
Okay.
Because I thought, the doctors know better.
Yes.
So when I went to Mater Hospital, I remember the doctor just telling me that, that is actually a lump and we need to do tests on it.
Okay.
And we did a few tests and then they weren't conclusive. So I had to do a different kind of test. It's called a core biopsy. So they basically remove like a string part of the lump to check. And because I didn't have insurance, I didn't have NHIF, I didn't have any, I didn't have that, and the test was so expensive. And we were looking at the cheapest alternatives we could get.
Okay.
So I ended up doing a surgery. At that time, I didn't even know it had a name.
The surgery was cheaper.
Than
having the core biopsy.
The person who was now doing the surgery was, we were linked by a family friend, so they gave us a very good rate for that surgery. And I was told since, eventually I'll still need to do it to remove the lump, so I'd rather remove it.
Let's just remove it.
Instead of doing all these tests and then remove it. And the money was a problem at that time.
Okay.
So I did the surgery. It's called a lumpectomy, which is supposed to remove the lump and the surrounding tissues.
Okay.
So when the results came back, I was told it's positive for cancer.
Okay.
And it's stage 0, which basically means it's pre-cancer. Like the cells are there, but they have not gone to any other organ or the surrounding tissues. Okay. So that is the earliest stage you can catch.
Which they say if you catch it at that point, then you can easily manage it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So after doing the surgery, I was told I need to do radiotherapy. I went now to Kenyatta Hospital.
Had you even, what is happening in your head
that time?
At that time, because now you were just going to have it removed. Umepiga antibiotics, uliambiwa it's nothing cancerous, but now you've been hit with the information that you actually are positive for. It's pre-cancer, but the cells are there. And now you're being hit by big words, radiotherapy. It's probably something you've never probably experienced, or had you seen anyone in your family, friend?
That's actually a really good question, because in our family we don't have any history of any type of cancer. Okay. And I am the youngest, so it did not make sense to anybody, including myself. Mm-hmm. And once I actually got the results, we did a second opinion and third opinion to just make sure it's actually cancer. Everybody was in shock. Yeah. I didn't know what to expect. I've never heard of somebody. At that time, I had not heard of anybody who was 23 and they had breast cancer. Yeah. there is also, of course, the stereotypes and the myths around this, and and the stigma again. I didn't want people to know. At some, at the back of my mind, I felt like it was my fault. It's something I did wrong.
Oh.
And this was also as a result of some of the comments I was being told. A relative told me, I got breast cancer because I was not going to church.
Oh.
Yeah, I was told that, I'm probably eating the wrong things. I am, so at the back of my mind, I was also wondering. Yes, and, being the youngest again in our family without any history of any type of cancer, I'm just thinking, okay, so what did I do wrong? Where should I, what should I have done to ensure that this did not happen?
Yeah.
And, so I tried to manage that by just going into autopilot, I have to say, because I just, I started going to hospital. I just wanted to get over with this cancer so I can go back to my life. And
did anything change in the way that you would probably eat, interact with people? Did you go back to yourself and, stay away from maybe friends? Were you in school at this point?
I had to stop going to school because of finances. Initially, it didn't really hit me.
Okay.
I would say the effects, the now mental effects I got from now the diagnosis was about a year after my diagnosis. And at that time, I had already done mastectomy, the removal of the whole breast. I had gone back to my life. So I was really trying to, resume from where I left off. I didn't know like life would change completely and it won't be the same again. So I still wanted to live in that
sort of like a bubble.
Exactly, to just assume that this never happened. Because after, when I started going to when I went to hospital and I needed to do radio, at some point, it's a bit of a long story, but at some point, they found that the surgery I did was not done correctly. So now, I know, so I still had some now smaller lumps in my breast.
That were not there during the surgery. So the surgery happened and then you started radiotherapy.
I had not started yet. So I was still in the process because it's also a process. You just don't start immediately. So during that process and checkups, so the doctor noticed I still had I actually had smaller lumps in my breast. And because I am not very blessed, I wasn't, it was not, it wouldn't make sense to do another lumpectomy to now remove the lumps. It would have been a bit of a longer story because I was supposed to first do it, then go back, do the series of tests to just ensure they got everything out. And then radiotherapy, or I do a mastectomy, and then I'll be on pills, on medication for 5 years. So that was the cheapest alternative, the cheapest and the fastest alternative I had.
Getting the mastectomy.
Getting the mastectomy and being on medication.
How old were you when you got the mastectomy?
I was 23. I know. And the reason why I'm saying that, it hit me way later is because when I was given the options, it was on a Monday, when I was given the options, I booked the mastectomy for the same week, Friday. I didn't wait for anything.
It was let's just do it.
Yeah, let's just do it. Let me get... At the same time, I think I was afraid if I had a lot of time to think about it, I wouldn't do it. So I just rushed into making the decision.
And was it entirely on you? Because, I mean, at 23, of course, your mom is there, your sister is there. Was it, did they help with that? Or was it entirely you, whatever you decide, one day we are going with your decision?
They gave me that space to air out my worries. But they also supported me to make the decision. Having somebody who's telling you that, I know it's a hard decision, but I'm with you. So
Yeah.
I had so many, I have to say I was fortunate. I had so many people who had my back. I had the support I needed.
Okay.
So once I made the decision, I did the mastectomy, and about a month later, I was told I'm cancer free.
Aha.
So, and I was just going to take the medication, 1 tablet per day for
For
5
5
days.
years.
Doesn't seem like, a lot. So I was relieved. And again, I have, my support system
Yeah.
they have always been there for me. But sometimes, as much as you have the support, when you're alone with your thoughts, that is when now, things can go south.
That's true.
So one of the key memories I have, I remember trying a dress. One of my dresses, which I used to really love, and it had like a cleavage. And I tried it on in front of a mirror, and I remember at that particular moment is when I realized I actually can't wear those kind of clothes anymore, because I had had the mastectomy, and that is when it hit me. And that was I think more than a year after the mastectomy.
Yeah.
At that particular time, I fell apart, and I got into depression, because I no longer liked the image I was seeing, looking at the mirror. I couldn't recognize myself anymore. I felt like a part of me was, removed, and I can't do anything about it. I didn't have the options because of finances. Again, I didn't have the options of doing mastectomy and reconstruction at the same time, because, you go in with your breast, you come back out with something similar to your breast. So it kind of helps. But at that time, I didn't have that option. And I felt really bad that I couldn't manage, I couldn't find a solution to this problem I was
there a
having.
support group, people now, because you got in without knowing anyone who was your age that had gone through this, but then now you've gone through the whole process, you've gotten a mastectomy. Have you gotten any support group at any point where you just go, and when someone vents, you understand what they're saying, and when you vent, they get what you're saying? Was there anything like that at that point?
At that point, I did not. There were support groups, but at that time, I didn't get the access to them. I'm saying that because I know if I had looked further, I would have gotten, but I was stuck. I was stuck in this space where I was feeling so isolated. I felt, I also know I had put pressure on myself. I had that pressure of now, since I'm already cancer free, I need to now move. I need to do something with my life. But now I didn't have that energy, I didn't have that capacity in me to do anything. So I felt really crippled. So that time, my family also noticed, because my personality changed. I wasn't going to where people were. Even at home, I used to just lock myself in the room, to just be alone. So they noticed, and at some point they managed to encourage me to get help. And that's when I started therapy. So I will say one of the things I should have done then, if I knew what I know now, what I should have done then is look for a community of people who are going through similar challenges like I am. Going to the hospital, being in a queue, one of the craziest things which happens on these wards where cancer wards and queues, for me anyway, is that people don't do small talk.
Oh.
You know, you just go, you jump into the, you know, question.
The
So,
cue.
uko hapa juu ya nini, you know.
Oh.
You know, and
No
it's
small
easy,
talk
no
at
small,
all.
you know, we will talk, but we will just dive into, you know, deeper conversations really quickly.
Okay.
And it helps.
Yeah.
You know, because you'll find this person will tell you they're going through this and that, and then you'll tell them, when I was doing that, when I was going through that, this is what helped me.
Yeah.
So you exchange tips, and it helps. And sometimes, because everybody is not the same and everyone has different perspectives in life, you will, of course, come across people who will tell you, like this particular woman I remember, who had also done a mastectomy.
Yeah.
And so she asked me, I told her I've also done a mastectomy. She told me, are you married? She asked me, are you married? I told her no. Then she told me, hey, na una date? I told her yes. Kaniambia, hey, omba Mungu usiwachwe. You know, so, and so I'm just thinking, why? So nikiwachwa, I won't be able to date somebody else.
I am not my boob. There's so much more.
Exactly.
Oh
so,
my God.
So after I started therapy, I got a different perspective in self-love. And to date, I'm just thinking, you know, you can't tell me anything about mastectomy or having one breast, which will hurt me.
Okay.
Because I am, at this particular moment, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with going to swimming with my bikini, and one side, you know, one side of my chest is flat, and you know, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
We wear prostheses.
Yes.
For, you know, like what I'm wearing right now.
Okay.
And sometimes I do forget to wear them, not intentionally. I will like actually forget, then
Yes.
go to the shop or supermarket when I notice somebody looking at me funnily. I'll be like, oh shoot, I forgot my breast at home, you know.
Yeah.
So it's at this particular moment, I felt it's important for me to share my story.
Yes.
Not just because I want to help others, but because it's also my way of healing.
That's true.
You know, when I'm talking about breast cancer openly, when I'm sharing my fears, when I'm sharing my achievements, you know, I feel more empowered, and I feel more at ease. And, you know, at the moment, you know, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, hey,
hi, gorgeous.
you know what? Exactly. So it has, and I have come from far, and
Yeah.
I know people are going through this. And that is why I also share my story, to just tell them that, you know what, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And however you're feeling, whatever you're feeling is valid, and you need somebody to support you.
You've also stepped in to provide something that was not readily available for you then, you know, having or bringing together people who are going through the same.
Yeah.
Before, after diagnosis, after being a victor like yourself. How is that? How did that come about, and how are you able to reach out to people?
So after I started sharing my story, because after my first diagnosis, I was rarely talking about my cancer experience. So in 2019, I got a recurrence. Okay. And at this time, it had spread to one of my lungs. And, you know, when cancer spreads to the original organ to a different one, it's automatically stage 4. And which basically means there's no cure. You just manage, you know, the chemos, the radio, you manage.
You had continued living your life. Now you knew you were okay.
And I was still on medication,
though,
for 3 years.
Yes, 3 years later.
Yes, I got a recurrence.
That took you to stage 4.
Exactly. And you know, the funny thing is, I've never been sick. I've never, you know, it did spread to one of my lungs, but I've never had any breathing problem or anything.
How did you even know? What happened?
I did, so where I had the mastectomy, where the scar was, there was a small nodule, but from, I think, around beginning of 2019 or end of 2018, I went to the hospital and I was told, it's normal again. I was told it's a cyst. And because of the surgery, sometimes it happens.
Okay.
But I was just monitoring it and I noticed it became a bit bigger.
Okay.
And then here on my neck where the cervical lymph nodes were, I remember feeling somewhere slightly swollen. So that's what took me again
cervical
to cervical lymph nodes.
Okay.
I know they are here. When I saw my report, written cervical lymph nodes, I did not think the cervical lymph nodes
They would be there. Yeah.
So they were slightly swollen, and that is what took me to the hospital.
Okay.
I did again the test, core biopsy, here and where the lump was, and it came back as positive for now metastatic cancer, breast cancer. I did a full body imaging, which now showed the small tumor in my lung.
What?
I know.
And that throws you. Were you strong enough for that? I mean, it's 3 years later, but
I don't think you can ever be prepared.
So, because I'm just like, what is this? So what now?
And at this time I had gone back to uni.
Yes.
So I had started, I resumed, and my life again was on track.
Yeah.
And so when I got this diagnosis again, it disrupted my life. One of the reasons was because I was told, I remember it was a day before my 27th birthday, and I was told, I have approximately a year to live. And that just threw me off. And I was just thinking, okay, so what have I been doing with my life?
1 year.
1 year.
Is there a kind of way to say it? Or they just blurt it out?
There definitely is a kind of way to say it.
But then it doesn't change
Mine
the
was, I asked my doctor, my then doctor, I asked her, so what is my prognosis? She told me, I think you have another 1 year with us. So that's how I got my name.
I wouldn't even get it when you say it like that. I'm like, so like,
so is it
like medication treatment
yeah,
for us to clear everything?
Yes, I know. But at the same time, I wouldn't fault the doctor because, she's looking at statistics, with, what I have. So she's basically, and I did ask what my prognosis was. Yeah. So I think it was a wake-up call for me. Because at that time I was just wondering, I sat down and I was just thinking, I've wanted to do so many things, but I've never done because, I still have time. I need to first do this, just putting off some of the things I would actually want to do. And immediately when I got out of that oncologist doctor, I started this list, my bucket list. I started a bucket list. Okay, now I call it my dream list. So I started my list of all the things I wanted to do within that 1 year, not because I was being pessimistic, but because I also wanted to just live my life, to just live a day at a time.
Do you remember some of those things that you wrote in there?
Oh yes, I still have it, and I still add on to it because I think it's such a motivation. So one of the things I had was to climb a mountain.
Wow.
So I joined this, beginning of last year, I joined this organization called Kilele Health Association. Okay. It's made up of cancer survivors and caregivers who hike for a cause. They use hiking for like one of their tools for advocacy. So, and they were climbing Mount Kenya last year in September. So I thought, I think I can tick one of these. So I joined them. I summited Mount Kenya in September last year. And with them again this year in March, I summited Mount Kilimanjaro.
What?
I know.
Oh my God.
I know. So, so I think what I got from that is sometimes, as much as we don't see it, regardless of the challenges you're going through, because every single person is going through something. Yeah. So there's always a silver lining if you look closer. Fortunately, I found it. Sometimes I don't see, but I try to just live a day at a time. And that is now where the support system comes in.
Okay.
Because when I was going through this, again, because of my age, as much as I would come across breast cancer survivors and patients, the challenges were similar but not the same.
Okay.
Mainly because, you know, you'll find the woman, the survivor, is married, has children. I don't have children. I am not married. You know, the aspect of also having children is something I always wanted to have that choice. But at this particular moment, because of the type of cancer I got, it's not advisable. And because of also the treatment I'm getting. So such things, talking to somebody who is going through that,
same, yeah.
you know, knowing that at almost now, I'm almost turning 30, I have not finished my degree yet, something I wanted to do for so long, but I had to keep on pausing and then, you know, focusing on treatment and then coming back, you know, that is important to just know that, you know what, there's somebody else who's going through this, and these are some of the things they did to maneuver the challenges. So from that idea, and also from getting now this stage 4 diagnosis and being, let me tell you, one of the other challenges I got, especially after the second diagnosis, was getting insurance. The treatment is so expensive.
So the first one, I remember we were just working with what is cheap.
Yes.
Did we get insurance to help in HIF, anything at the first time?
I did. I got an HIF, I got insurance.
Fantastic.
I did treatment, you know, I was on medication, everything was going okay.
Okay.
So when I got my second diagnosis, I had insurance because now I knew the importance of medical insurance. So I did the treatment, the chemo, because for the second one I had to do chemotherapy. And there's this other medication called Herceptin, which costs approximately 100,000, and you need to take it every 3 weeks. And for my case, every 3 weeks for as long as it works.
Yeah.
Exactly. So every 3 weeks forever, basically. And it was expensive. My insurance could not cover all of it. NHIF could not cover all of it. Between my insurance and NHIF, they covered approximately 9 sessions a year, and I needed 16 sessions per year.
Wow.
So I did a crowdfunding. My friends and my colleagues supported me. So from the support I got from everybody around me, took me up to end of 2020. And from now there, I could no longer continue with this accepting. It was too expensive. You know, my insurance company could not renew my insurance because basically, okay, in terms of business, you know, I was a liability since I was using it and exhausting the
But I am
amounts.
also paying the premium.
I know, but it, you know, it kind of doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And during that time, I was still trying to apply for other insurances to just have like a buffer to ensure I'm not exhausting one, to just, you know, get from different places so that I can get the renewal. But I'm telling you, all of the insurance companies I was applying to were declining. And then one accepted, you know, sent me an acceptance letter.
Wow.
I know. Then 2 days later, they sent me a decline letter.
No! No!
That's exactly how I was feeling. So it was very
Is that the clause would
demotivating.
just tell us, do you have any medical conditions? That's the line,
Yes,
So when
and
you
then
tell
and then when you say yes, they ask you for the medical report. So once you produce that, I think mine, they had not gone through my file very well. So there was that. And also, you know, I was seeking support from some organizations which usually do support. And now, unfortunately, the ones I reached out to, either they didn't have funds or they gave me a good, better polished explanation of how they cannot support a stage 4 patient. You know, and it makes sense. If you look at it, it does make sense because, you know, once you're in treatment forever, so you kind of, you know, you'll keep on going to hospital, you'll keep on taking medication, you know. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to manage stage 4, and it is so expensive. And because of that, I felt really isolated because I was just thinking, the communities which are supposed to have my back, you know, the hospitals which have the welfare, but they cannot support me because I don't have a specific number of chemotherapy sessions I need to take. And I'm just thinking, okay, I can tell you it's, you know, I need 16 Herceptins per year. Will that help? You know, can you pay for even 1 or 2 cycles or something? So there was that challenge I was facing, and I felt it was very isolating.
I can imagine.
So I started speaking to people. At this time, I had more survivors and patients who I was in contact with. And when I was doing the interviews, there were so many people who would reach out to me on social media. And I even have to say, most of my closest friends right now, I met them through social media. You know, it's somebody who was Googling maybe a breast cancer survivor, they saw me or they found me, and, you know, and that is how I get my support.
Okay.
And from there, the idea of Chasing Hope was born, a project which I started with my sisters to support the patients, the survivors, and also the caregivers. Because one of the things we tend to forget are the caregivers.
Yes, we forget.
We do, because, you know, they are basically carrying a heavier. Sometimes I feel like my caregivers
when you were
are
told
carrying
you have a year to live, it affected them as well. So, and probably they had to be stronger for you. So they probably don't get to vent it out to you, but then you are allowed to just be you, vent out, it's okay, we'll take it.
Yeah.
But then where do they take their grief?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
and because it's really heavy.
It is.
You know, and a cancer diagnosis is not for one person. When one person is diagnosed with cancer, the whole family and probably even their friends have also been diagnosed. Since you have to, it's hard to also deal with somebody who, you know, like for me, I will say, when I got my second diagnosis, I didn't want to do treatment. I was just thinking, so why would I waste so much money and then be so sick, then die after 1 year? That was my thinking. It did not make sense. And when I started the treatment, I didn't do it for me. I was doing it for my family. And well, I'm really glad I did.
You did it.
But at that time, I just did it for them because I was seeing the pain they were going through. I saw the struggles. And for me, you know, I accepted the diagnosis and I was like, you know what, 1 year, fine. That is what I have. It's okay. I had moved, I had really accepted it. But now looking back and just wondering what they are thinking about,
going through.
you know, so that gave me also courage to fight and to, you know, to really fight this disease. During the 2 diagnoses, I was still dating the same person. Fortunately, the relationship ended by around 2020, end of 2020. So after the breakup, it took me quite long before I now went back to the streets. So you know, you don't know where to start. You know, which is the first conversation you're supposed to start with? You know, do you just go and blurt out, I have stage 4 breast cancer, I don't have 1 breast? You know, I didn't know how to go around that. But I think being myself has really helped. And, you know, I will say probably the self-love and being yourself, you have to first start with you. Because if you can't, if you have an empty cup. You cannot give anything from that.
That's true.
So you need to fill that up first. So that when you go for a date, like one of the ones I went to, and then somebody told me, hata wazuri hawajazaliwa. I know. So so that when you go to search, it will not, it won't make you feel bad about yourself.
What? They said that to you?
Yes.
What? Why?
So,
okay.
Yeah, so basically there's, there are always those kind of people, but sometimes I also feel like some people don't know what to say and they just
that's
talk.
True. Yeah.
So, so I would say start with you first. Start with loving yourself.
Love you. Pour into yourself, kabisa.
Yeah, so I started there. And I'm not dating at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, I will say that is where you start. I've had other experiences from my friends who, some of them will say that, they're dating people who didn't know they had cancer, and once they told them, it's going very well. And it's a non-brainer. It's just a detail in their life. Okay. There are some which their relationship ended because of cancer. So there's
a mix of everything.
Okay. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where are we at now in terms of treatment? I mean, they gave you 1 year, a couple of years ago.
I know. So last year when I was, since I still need to do, every 3 months to do scans, I'm still on medication. So mid last year when I did a PET scan, a full body scan, they could not see any sign of any active cancer in my body. I know.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And I remember when I saw the results, the first person I called was my mom, because my mom's faith is crazy. And because when I got the diagnosis and she learned about the 1 year, and then she was like, mi naomba Mungu na unapona.
Yes.
And I was just thinking, poor mom, And so when I got the results, she was the first person I called, and I told her, listen, mom, maombi yako imesikika.
Ndio hii results.
And then she told me, hey, si nilikuambia.
You're the one who didn't believe me. Me, I knew.
Exactly.
Oh
so
my goodness.
I will say what has worked for me was, of course, watching my diet, watching what I eat, doing exercise. I hike quite a lot. I walk quite a bit as well. Prayers. And this is not even for anti-Christian. So even if you're a non-religious person, find something you believe in. Just find something which you can just cling your hope onto.
Yeah.
Because that helps. That is now where your silver lining will come from. And there's a quote I read another day. I'm probably going to say it all wrong, but the essence of it was, light comes through the wound. Like where where you've been hurt kabisa.
Yes.
That is where your light can also manifest from. That is how I like looking at this cancer journey of mine.
And I love that you talk about it, and maybe it wasn't always like this, but the way you talk about it now is with a very light spirit, very, I am okay, this is it, and I will tell my story and I'll keep doing this and change lives, and you keep chasing hope.
Absolutely.
Not just for you, but even for the people around you, the people who are looking and listening and going through this, wondering who can I talk to, who has gone through this. But you coming into the light and just sharing this, you're also breaking the stigma, which is what Breast Cancer Awareness Month is all about.
Absolutely.
And screening and screening and screening. This month, they have so many places that people are going for screenings for free. So please, 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 if you can find where to go, somewhere to go, and I'm sure you can probably share some on your page. And please tell us where people can find you when they on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere.
So I have a YouTube channel which is very stagnant.
Yeah, about that.
I know. It's Mwende Motiso.
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, it's also Mwende Motiso.
Okay.
Instagram is Mwende_Motiso.
Okay.
You can reach me there, and I'll definitely reach out. And as you had mentioned before, as young people, we tend to feel like we're invisible. But unfortunately, cancer does not know how to discriminate.
That is so true.
So it's good to know your body, know how, just know your body so well, so that when there's something amiss, go to the hospital, have it checked. You're not comfortable with the results, get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Because sometimes your inner self, I don't know, you kind of sometimes know when something is amiss. Look at the red flags. Do you have a lump? Is one of your breasts bigger than the other one?
Yeah.
And also one other misconception is breast cancer is not just for women.
Yep.
Even men do get breast cancer.
Yeah.
So you need to check, check your body, go for second opinions, take advantage of the free screenings.
Yes.
And if you know anybody who's going through this, support them in the way you can. Is it a message you'll send? Is it just a phone call? Don't exclude them in now the social events because they have cancer.
Yeah.
Include them so that they also don't feel isolated.
Absolutely.
And also for the people, the caregivers now, reach out. It's important. Your mental health is important. Reach out. Find places where you can go and share your worries with. Find somebody, because you cannot survive as an individual. You need your community.
That is so true. I think in a nutshell, you are not alone. Absolutely. And you shouldn't walk this journey alone, because there's so much help out there. Just reach out. Somebody might hold your hand, somebody might just walk this journey with you. And that is all we had for you on MwikaliTalks today. Thank you so much, Mwende Motiso. Thank you, Mwende. For coming through and for sharing your story, and thank you for tuning in. Remember to comment, subscribe, like, share, all those things. Turn on the notification bell, because we have great content coming through your way. Thank you, Thriver, for making sure that this happens for us. And our camera people hapa, Max, wende uangaliwe. Hii ni ile mwezi. Usiseme tu ni wasichana peke yake wanaweza kuangaliliwa. So that's Realm Studios as well. Asanteni sana. Caro, my producer, you are amazing. Hannah on this side, thank you so much as well for holding it down for us. Asanteni, we do not take it for granted. Have an amazing rest of the day, whatever time of the day you are at watching this. Nawapenda sana. Adios.